Hi, my loves, and welcome back to I'm On Your Side with me, your host, Sierra Boudreau. I hope you guys have been having a good week so far. Last week's episode, Silly Spring, has been doing so well. You guys have been loving that episode, which makes me so happy because I really wanted you guys to take that one and apply it to your own lives and make it fit in the way that works for you. I think that I gave some really good, tangible advice that you can go out and take into your day-to-day. You can take into your dating, you can take into your friendships, you can take into your personal development. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. You guys have been loving it, so I can't wait to hear more about what you guys think. Most loved episode still to this day is Maybe All This Is a Party. I am so sure most of you guys have listened to that one by now because it is my most listened to episode by far. But what's crazy about that episode, I think I already talked to you guys about this last time I was talking about this episode, but what's crazy about that episode is when I sat down to record it, I was like, I just don't know if this is going to come out the way that I wanted it to come out. I don't know if this is going to sound the way that I wanted it to sound. And I finished recording it and I was like, I just don't know how good that was. Like, I don't know how much that's going to resonate. I thought that maybe when I sat down to edit it, I would feel better about it. And so I sat down to edit it and I obviously felt better about it because I put it out. But still, I was feeling kind of insecure about it. I just didn't know if it was going to land the way that I wanted it to. And that episode just did the best and far exceeded my expectations. So I think that just goes to say that sometimes we are our biggest critics and we are so harsh on ourselves in our work, especially if you're in the creative field. We can be so hard on our work and then we put it out there and people love it or they don't like it, whatever it may be. They have their own experience with it, but it is so nice when you kind of doubt yourself and then you get that reassurance from your audience. And so I'm really thankful that you guys love that episode. And I'm really thankful that you guys let me just come as I am and you accept me as I am and love what I put out for you guys. So that's that on that. Moving forward, this weekend, I'm going to Moab. When this episode goes up, I'll still be there. It'll be Sunday, obviously, when this episode comes up, and I come back Sunday night. But I'm so excited. I've never been camping before, and I've definitely never been in Moab, but I'm going with my best friends. I'm going with Alex. I'm going with a wider group of friends. It's just going to be such a party. I can't wait. I went to REI yesterday and had a freaking field day in there, you guys. It was so much fun, but I'm so glad that I went with one of my friends because I don't think that I expected how expensive camping stuff can get. You can obviously get it on the lower end if you want to be intentional about it. But if you're just walking around and picking things up and thinking, oh, it's just a chair, oh, it's just a table, oh, it's just a tent, if you don't look at the prices, you're easily adding so much money to your cart. I was sitting in these chairs and I was like, oh, these are great. I'm going to get two, one for me, one for Alex. I looked at the price tag, $250. Like, no fucking way am I getting $500 worth of chairs. And it's two chairs. I can't do that. I won't do that. That is just unreasonable. So I got just like these regular REI chairs. They were $50 and that works for us. And then I got a tent. I got a 4-person tent because the way that I see it is like, odds are if Alex and I are camping, we're probably going to be in a tent by ourselves. But say we go with like 2 other friends or 2 other people and they don't have a tent, it doesn't really make sense for them to buy one if they're not campers. They can just bunk with us, you know, like rather than them having to buy their own tent or us having to buy an extra tent so that we can have people camp with us if they're not big campers. So I got a 4-person tent because that just seemed to make the most sense. And a 6-person tent seemed like way too big. It didn't really need to be that big, I don't think. So 4-person tent, it fits a queen size mattress and then I think like maybe a smaller mattress or something else. I need to look at the box again, but it fits what it needs to fit. So I got that. I got a lantern for inside the tent. Also, I'm so sorry. My allergies are kind of bad. I just took my Allergyville. I took Flonase. I'm trying my best to get through this, but it's like in and out. Like sometimes I feel like my voice sounds really stuffy and then sometimes I feel like it sounds fine. So just if you're noticing that, just know that I am aware and I'm working on it, but it is spring and it is allergy season. And so I just feel like I got so used to like in the winter not really having allergies because the pollen is down and all that stuff. And now the spring's come around, my allergies are back full force. And so I'm getting back into the swing of like my allergy routine, which is insane that I have to have an allergy routine, like a bedtime routine. So that out of the way, back to camping, got the tent, got the lantern. I need to go pick up some jugs of water. I need to pack. And then what else did I get? I got this, like I didn't get the bed because the bed I was looking at looked really nice and thick, but it was $250 or $279, something like that, which isn't unreasonable. Like I would have paid that if I felt like I couldn't get something better just on Amazon. Or my friend Hallie found this mattress pad, but it's like thick and I think it's 4 or 5 inches. And everyone who left a review said it was really good for camping. So I got that. So I saved a bunch of money by not just like grabbing the first thing that I saw. So we're going to try that out. And if that doesn't work out, then I'll upgrade next time I want to camp. But I didn't want to invest like $500 in camping supplies. And I'm not even sure if I'm going to even enjoy camping like that. But on the flip side of it, I think it's worth it to get, relatively good stuff because Alex does enjoy camping. So if he wanted to camp by himself or with his friends, he could obviously take the stuff and enjoy all of it. So it's not wasted if I don't like camping. It's just that I want to make sure that I'm being smart with the stuff that I'm buying and not just buying it because it's there. If I can get less expensive stuff other places. But REI was literally so fun. There's so much stuff in there. There's everything you could want. I got this cute little cowgirl hat, but it's like straw because we're going to go like wander around. And I think that Emily said there's a lake. I'm not super familiar with Moab, but I think Emily said there's a lake or like some kind of water source. So we're going to go swim in that, have a good time in that. So I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, my first time camping, I'm going with my best friends. I'm going with Alex. It's just going to be a transformative weekend. I am like speaking that into existence that this weekend is going to awaken me and I'm going to finally feel like I live in Denver. I feel like camping and skiing are two things you just do when you live here. Skiing I'm out on. Skiing I'm not going to do. Maybe next season, but honestly, I highly doubt it. I'm not like super in on skiing, so I don't think I'm going to do that. But camping, I think I could be in on. So I'm looking forward to that. We're leaving Friday morning, leaving Sunday afternoon/night, and I'm going to try to be disconnected, off my phone, offline. I highly doubt I'm going to have a lot of service anyway, so that's going to make it easier. But I'm going to just try to like be present, be in the moment, be with my people, and really just enjoy what's out there because what an experience it is to go camping with like your favorite people on earth and just have the best time. So looking forward to that. And then what else do we have going on? Alex and I booked our anniversary trip. I feel like the segment has turned from like, what am I doing? Where am I going? Like, what am I reading? All that stuff to literally just like what my travel schedule is because I have been traveling so much and especially in May, traveling so much. I feel like every week is just booked with some kind of event, some kind of travel, some kind of something. That said, at the end of the month, Alex and I are celebrating our anniversary in Maui and I'm so excited. I think it's going to be a super special trip. I've never been to Hawaii. Alex, I don't think has ever been to Maui. He's been to other islands in Hawaii, but never been to Maui. So we booked our Airbnb. We kind of have an idea of what we want to do. I have so many swimsuits. I don't even need to think about another swimsuit, but I bought this really cute purple set from TJ Maxx and it's House of Harlow, I think is the brand. And it is really precious, but it's way too long in the legs. It's made for someone who's like 5'10" and I am 5'5". So I need to get that tailored before we go. I need to add that to my to-do list, mental note, also actual note, because when I edit this, I'll see that. So I need to get that tailored because I definitely want to wear that on vacation. And I need to just make sure I have like the outfits that I want. But luckily my Nuuly has consistently lined up with when I'm on vacation or when I'm going somewhere. Like I got a Nuuly for the wedding I was going to. And while I didn't like the dresses that I picked, they just like were either too big or not flattering. So I didn't end up wearing those and I bought one. But that's going back on the 16th. And then I'll be able to pick a new Nuuly for vacation. And that's just worked out. I think I got a Nuuly for Charleston. I got a Nuuly for the New York wedding. Getting a Nuuly for Maui. So it seems like every time I'm going somewhere, my Nuuly lines up, which is great because it would suck if I had to like return it on the week that I was going. So I didn't have an opportunity to pick a new one. So that works out. Love Nuuly. If you haven't heard of it, which I am 100% sure you've all heard of Nuuly, it's just a clothing rental service. This is not sponsored. I feel like I have to say that every time I talk about a product or a brand or anything, but this is not sponsored. It's just something that I pay money for. It's just something that I pay the full subscription price for. I really do think it is a great way to change your personal style, figure out what you like, figure out what you don't like. And with jeans, I always want to get like nicer jeans, but with things like that, I really get discouraged when I like get my size and it doesn't fit. Then I have to go through the whole return process or exchange process and then yada yada. Like I just don't really love doing that. But with Nuuly, I can get like based off of reviews, I can get the jeans that I think will fit me. And then if I like them, I will just buy them. And if I don't like them, I can just send them back. And it's really like no loss there because I have to send stuff back anyway. It's not just one item that needs to go back. So love Nuuly. I think it's great for vacation. I think it's great for special events. I think it is great for just your day-to-day, wanting to spice things up, wanting to change seasons. I use it a lot in the winter, coats and warmer clothes, just because I don't need those year round. And I wanted to get some trendy stuff, some cute stuff that I didn't necessarily want to spend the money on, like just to buy it. So renting it was a great option. So that's Nuuly, and those are my travel plans. And what am I reading? I'm still reading A City of Girls for my book club. If you haven't heard of that book, I've talked about it, I think, in every episode in the past couple of weeks. Love that book. You can read the synopsis online if you are interested, but that's what we're doing for book club. And then, oh my God, you guys, I have recently gotten in, like deeply in on Chapel Rowan. Every day I wake up and it's like, thank God I'm alive because it's another day to listen to Chapel Rowan. I am obsessed with her sound, obsessed with her vibe, obsessed with her lyrics, like obsessed with all of what she's putting out. I think that pop stars are back in a serious way. The last time I felt the way that I feel listening to Chapel's music is when I listened to Troye Sivan's most recent album for the first time. Like poppy, fun, want to dance around. It's sexy, it's cute, it's cheeky. Like that's how I feel when I listen to this, and it just gives me a different feeling than say when I listen to Taylor Swift's album. And while I love Taylor Swift, I truly do, I just, this latest album, like when it's 85 degrees and I am going to the pool with my friends and I'm feeling sexy and feeling fun, feeling free, I'm not listening to Peter. You know what I mean? Or like, I'm also not really listening to Guilty as Sin. And I feel like Guilty as Sin is one of the biggest bops on the album. And yet it doesn't feel summery to me. And so I still like the album. I've still been listening to it, but I've been like leaning more into summer jams, poppy jams, more fun jams, just as the weather's getting brighter and I feel better and I feel more alive and happy and joyful. I want to listen to music that kind of matches that. And Chapel is doing that for me. So that's where I'm going, what I'm reading, what I'm listening to, what I'm doing. That is all of it. But I figured we could do a quick intro and then we can get right into the episode. And this week's episode is all about rejection. I had one of you guys DM me and you were like, can you please talk about rejection? My partner is going through this really tough season where they're like applying for jobs and they're just not getting it and they're starting to feel discouraged. And I can absolutely empathize with rejection in a broader sense. I think that I'm out of the job market right now because my full job is influencing. And so I'm not super familiar with how tough that is and how exhausting that can be, but I am very familiar with how tough and exhausting rejection as a theme can be and how it plays into our lives and affects us and affects our relationships and affects how we see the world around us, all of it. So I wanted to dedicate a full episode to rejection, what I've learned from it, how I've grown from it, and how it has changed me and shaped me in the life that I'm living. So let's get into it. When we think about rejection, we often feel that it's very personal. And rejection, I believe, is personal, but not in the way that we think. I don't think it's personal between rejector and rejected. I think it's personal between universe and rejected. And sure, you can look at it and say, they didn't choose me, they didn't want me, they didn't think I was worthy of the time, the investment, the energy, whatever it may be. But rather than going down that negative self-talk, that negative feedback loop, I frame it in a different way and I say it is very personal and it's a personal decision between the universe and myself. And the universe is simply telling me not right now, or the universe is telling me no. And that is okay because the universe knows what I'm supposed to end up with. And if you believe in God or you believe in any other higher power, you can replace the universe with that. Whatever you choose to believe in that, is destiny, fate, God, the universe, whatever it may be. I'm using the universe because that's what I believe in. But I believe that when I get a no from someone, something, some job, some opportunity, it's the universe telling me there's something better for me. And going down that thought path gives me a lot more positivity and a lot more energy and a lot more willingness to go towards the next thing because I'm not living in a scarcity mindset. A no is not the end all be all of my opportunity. A no is not the end all be all of my next step, of my joy, of my happiness. A no just leads me to more of that and in the way that I'm supposed to have it, right? Because there are a million different ways that you can end up being happy, successful, wealthy, whatever your goals are. But there's only a few right ways, the ways that will actually lead you to fulfillment rather than saying, okay, I got to know from this job. I got to know from this person. I got to know from this friend. And that is it. Since they said no, no one else is going to say yes. Do you see how going down that path takes us into this headspace of despair and loneliness and desperation? And the other path leads us to abundance and joy and fulfillment. I think that we can look at things a million different ways. And some of them are going to lead us to these really negative places. And some of them are going to lead us to these really positive places. And it's our obligation to reframe our mindset. And that's not to say that when we face rejection, that's not going to sting and that we can't allow it to sting. I'm a big advocate for feeling your feelings, experiencing them as they come. But feelings are just like weather. Feelings are just like water. They come and they flow, and you allow them to be here when they're here, and you allow them to go when they go. I used to do this thing when I was younger, when I would feel upset. I was very, very comfortable in melancholy, and I was very comfortable in despair and loneliness because that's what I had known for so long from my family or from different situations in my life. I was just really comfortable being really fucking sad. I would notice when I would have this initial feeling of sadness or anger or discomfort and it would start to fade away, I would like reach for it and I would bring it back in. I would pull it back into myself because I was so familiar with feeling that. And I would think, okay, if I don't have my anger, if I don't have my sadness, what do I have? Because I don't really feel like I have joy. And so am I just going to be devoid of emotion? And I was just so comfortable in that low feeling and that low vibration, as some would even say. And I was just walking around this like pit of sadness, which is not a way to live. It is not a way to be. I was so uncomfortable all the time. And I think we can do that same thing with rejection. I think that when that initial feeling comes through and we're feeling disappointed or angry, and we start to, see the silver lining and start to move forward from it rather than holding onto that feeling. And I know that, this is going to resonate with some people, because I don't know that this is a universal experience, but I know that a lot of us tend to do it. When that feeling starts floating away, we grab for it and reach for it because we're just comfortable being there. We're comfortable in our own melancholy, but we have to learn to let those feelings go as they go, to make room for new things. We have to learn to move forward and build resilience, because if we don't, we're going to be in that same loop over and over, and nothing is going to change. And if you are only comfortable being really sad, being really lonely, and saying, woe is me, the world is out to get me, nothing is working out for me, how do you think the universe is going to respond, right? But if we say, this didn't work out, so something better could, and I fully believe something better could, while the universe is doing its part, I'm going to do my part, and we're going to meet somewhere to create something beautiful and sustainable and long lasting that's going to lead me to even more success, even more joy, even more wealth, if that's what you're looking for, than the previous thing, right? We have to believe that, because we have to allow ourselves to move forward. And if I have to believe something, I'm going to believe the thing that leads me to joy. I'm going to believe the thing that leads me to goodness. I am no longer believing the things that my brain tells me that lead me down this really dark hole of despair. I can't believe those things anymore. If they come, they come, and when they go, they go. But I can't allow those things to take root in my brain, to take root in my heart, and then corrode everything around it. And building on that, I say this all the time. You guys know I say this all the time, but the thing that is meant for you is not going to miss you. We know this by now. Sometimes we just want it on the timeline that we want it on, and we have to understand that the universe doesn't always work on our timeline. The universe works on the timeline that things are meant to happen, because it is simply not all about us. Everything is not all about us. And when I allowed myself to believe that everything is not about me, everything that I want is not everything that needs to happen, I allowed myself to be more comfortable with the ebbs and flows of life, because I am one singular being in the midst of trillions of organisms everywhere, right? I am just one person, and I want things to work out so bad. And sometimes I don't acknowledge how that can affect other things. I don't want to think about how that can affect other things, because I want the things that I want, and I want them when I want them. And the universe just isn't going to do that, right? And so things are going to work out in the timeline, in the way that they're supposed to, for the good of everything. And when I sacrifice the things that I want when I want them for the good of everything, it just brings me a little bit of peace. It's like, okay, it's not about me. It's not working out the way that I want it, because if this works out the way that I want it to, that means maybe something else is going to fall by the wayside, or something else is going to go wrong, and I can't be the most special, most important thing on the universe. Like I really am just one person, and while things are working out for me in a good way, in a beautiful way, that doesn't mean that I can't make room for things to work out in good and beautiful ways for other people, for other things as well. Because when you don't get that job, someone else does. When you don't get that opportunity, someone else does. When you don't get that apartment, someone else does. And you never know if they needed that thing, if that is their breakthrough, if that is their big revelation, if that is their big move that they really needed. And I have to understand that, okay, things don't work out for me in the timeline that I want them to work out all the time. But sometimes when I get a no, that means somebody else gets a yes. And the Lord knows that there have been times that I've gotten yeses that I needed them. I needed that yes. And because I got that yes, that sometimes meant that somebody else got a no. And while that is deeply unfortunate for them, what the universe is saying there is, you needed this thing, and this thing was meant for you. And then the person who gets that no is eventually going to get their yes, the yes that leads them to the life that they are supposed to live, right? So we have to balance our yeses and nos and look at it in a way that's not so personal. So when yeses come, we allow them to come, and we receive them with joy and gratitude. And when no's come, we also receive that with gratitude, because a no is saying there is something better. Rejection is not the end of the story, right? Rejection is often just a part of the story. We're all going to experience it. We're all going to go through it. If we look at rejection as the end of the story, then there really is no point in continuing to go forward, because there is always going to be rejection. Unfortunately or fortunately, however you look at it, there's always going to be rejection. And if you always look at rejection as this end all be all, the end of the road, the end of the story, then what is the point of continuing to try, continuing to go forward? Rather than if you look at rejection as a part of the story and say, okay, I get no's to make room for a yes. I get no's or not right nows to make room for something that is more aligned for me, more perfect for me, better than I could even imagine. When we learn to receive rejection with gratitude, it makes it a lot easier to stomach, and it makes that sting last a shorter amount of time, and it gets us excited because, okay, this is a no, and if this great thing that I really wanted was a no, that means that something that I couldn't even imagine, something infinitely greater, is coming to me, and that's going to be a yes, right? We can't be so short-sighted and live in such a scarcity mindset and say, okay, I got a no here, and that no is final, so I'm never going to have the lifestyle that I want. I'm never going to have the wealth that I want. I'm never going to have the benefits that I want. I'm never going to have the relationship I want. I'm never going to have the friendship I want. We can apply rejection to all of those spaces and more. But if we look at it in a scarcity mindset, then we are just doomed from the jump. So when we reframe from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset and say, I didn't get this thing, so there's more. I didn't get this thing, so there's greater. There's better. There's more opportunity. Whatever I thought that I was going to get here, I'm going to get more of it down the road. If only I'm willing to be patient, and if I'm only willing to do the work, and I'm only willing to continue showing up, the universe is going to reward that. I fully believe that with my whole soul. When I was a senior in high school, which feels like so fucking long ago, honestly, when I think about it being 25, when I was a senior in high school, I was 17 years old. So that was, quite a bit ago. But back in the day when I was a senior, I was applying for colleges. And at the time that I was applying, the school that I really, really wanted to go to was Alabama. That was my big decision. My best friend had gone to Alabama a year before me. I'd visited. I fell in love with it. I was so excited about it. I kind of had my blinders on to like the University of Alabama. I didn't really think critically about what that would look like financially, what that would look like racially, what that would look like politically. Like I was just kind of like, oh, this is a place that I can go and it'll be great, because I wasn't really aware of the stark difference between a place like where I grew up, League City, where while it was predominantly white and while it was very affluent, a place like Alabama where the rules just feel a little bit different, right? Unfortunately, like in the worst way. Not saying that all of Alabama is bad, not to offend anyone who went to Alabama or loved Alabama. I'm just saying as a Black woman, my experience was bound to be different than as a white woman, right? So all that to say, I didn't really think very critically about it when I was applying. And so I was like, I'm going to go to Alabama. Savannah went to Alabama. I'm going to Alabama. Life is going to be great. It's going to be dandy. I'm going to be in her same sorority. Blah, blah, blah. And I was so excited about it, but I also kind of had this like feeling in the back of my head. I was like, maybe I should apply to some other colleges just to have some options. I applied to Alabama. I applied to TCU, Texas Christian University, and I applied to Baylor. Those are the three schools I applied to when applications first went out. And I almost applied to CU Boulder, which is so funny because my best friends here, a lot of them went to CU Boulder. And so just funny that like maybe if I had gone there, I would have met them earlier or, whatever. Maybe never met them and met them now. And then who knows? Literally who knows? But I just think it's funny that a place that I was thinking about going is where most of them actually went. So I almost applied to CU Boulder, but their out-of-state tuition was just like absolutely astronomical. And I was like, I just can't put myself in that kind of financial debt. I have always been pretty good with money. And so when I was younger, I was just aware that I was going to be paying my way through college with loans, or so not paying my way through college, but taking out loans to pay for college. And then eventually I was going to have to pay them back. And so it just didn't really make sense for me to take out that much money in loans if I could go somewhere else. So applied to Baylor, applied to TCU, applied to Alabama. Get into Alabama. I think the day that they send out letters, I get in Alabama. And TCU and Baylor both waitlist me. And so at first I was like, okay, it doesn't really sting that bad because I wanted to go to Alabama anyway. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, why am I not good enough to go to these other universities? Why am I not good enough for Baylor? Why am I not good enough for TCU? I really thought I was going to get into these universities. And when I checked and got waitlisted to both of them, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like maybe, and then I was embarrassed because my friends were getting into these colleges. My best friend Sydney went to Baylor. And so I was just like embarrassed, I think. And I didn't really want to tell people that I got waitlisted because it just feels like kind of shameful. And I feel like, okay, maybe they're going to think that I'm not smart or whatever. And so I just kind of like kept this secret shame for a little bit when people asked, or people didn't really ask because I didn't really tell people where I was applying to colleges. I just kind of like did it on my own. So people didn't really ask, but I was just so nervous it was going to get brought up that I was like, oh, please don't ask me like what happened with, my other applications applications or people ask me where I applied, I just say Alabama and I got in. And I would just kind of like lie by omission in that way. I carried around this shame and I think this envy because I saw other people getting into these really great universities. And I was like, okay, why could I only get into one? Never mind the fact that I only applied to 3. But then when I started thinking about it more and more, started actually talking to people about it, started opening up to people about it and expressing in these conversations that okay, I feel kind of shamed and I feel kind of embarrassed. Over time, that was allowed to reframe because I process things by speaking them out loud. I do great with therapy. I do great with conversations with friends or with my partner. That's just kind of how I process things. And so over time, as I was processing, I was like, honestly, thank goodness I didn't get into all of the schools that I applied to, because while I think that I like choices, I actually have a really hard time making decisions when it comes down to it. I kind of am a one at a time kind of person. I can't have a bunch of options in front of me because then I'll always feel like, what if I chose the other thing? And then I'll always feel like, what if I didn't make the best decision? Even if I go somewhere and love it, I'm like, well, was the grass greener somewhere else? Or the grass had been greener at TCU if I went to Baylor, or the grass had been greener at Alabama if I went to TCU? You know what I mean? So not having those options actually was really good for me at the time. Fast forward, when I started thinking critically about what my life would look like at Alabama, I did a pretty quick turnabout. I think it was March. And then I applied last minute to University of North Texas. And I was like, if I get in, I made the decision, to not really give myself these choices. I was like, if I get in, I'm going to go. I feel like that's going to be the universe telling me that's where I am meant to go. At the time, I was very religious. So I was like, God is going to lead me where I'm supposed to go. And if I apply to UNT and I get in, then I'm just supposed to go there. God's leading me there. And so I get into UNT and I immediately just felt this sense of relief. I was like, oh, that is where I'm meant to be. That's where I'm supposed to end up. Or that's not to say that the rejection of getting waitlisted at TCU and Baylor didn't sting, because it did sting, but ultimately it worked out in the way that it was supposed to work out, because University of North Texas was really my dream school. I loved it. I thrived there. I really got out of my comfort zone and branched out. I met incredible people. I had so much fun. I got into a relationship that did serve me at the time. University of North Texas, UNT, was really where I was supposed to be. And had I had all of those other options, I think that I would have started doubting that. I wasn't really talking to my parents about my college decisions. My parents weren't involved in that way. And so I was really just talking to myself and my friends and trying to make this decision the best that I could. But mind you, I was 17 years old. I was a kid, really, when it comes down to it. I was a kid trying to make this really big decision for my life, this financial decision, this emotional decision, this political decision, this safety decision for myself. And it worked out to where UNT ended up being exactly where I was meant to be. But had I not faced rejection from these other places, I don't know if I would have felt such a strong conviction. I mean, maybe I would have gotten there and forgotten all about the other places, but because those other places, other than Alabama, weren't really an option, I didn't really feel this yearning for it, because I didn't know what could have been, because I didn't get in. If I had gotten in, then maybe I would have felt differently. With Alabama, I think that I let that go once I started thinking deeply about what my life would look like at Alabama. I don't think that there's a moment at UNT that I wish I was at Alabama. I didn't go visit Alabama one time when I was in college. So it just wasn't meant for me to be there. So that's just a story about how rejection ended up working in my favor. And that's, with school rejection. I know that some of you guys are applying to grad schools and things like that, and maybe facing some of that rejection, which I know can be hard. But you are going to end up where you're supposed to end up. So sometimes it feels like we have this really big dream, and if only it worked out that we can achieve our dream, not acknowledging in the moment that our dreams can change. And it is a fine thing for our dreams to change as we adapt to the ebbs and flows of life. And then, of course, there's rejection in dating, which feels so hard and so devastating at the time, especially when you really like someone, right? And you're so excited about them and you want to spend so much time with them, and you're hopeful and you're excited and you're fantasizing about what your life is going to look like in a year when you're celebrating your 1-year anniversary. Are you going to live together? Are you going to have shared friends? Are you going to have shared hobbies? Are you guys going to be a couple that travels a lot? You start thinking about all of the different ways that your life can look with this person, because you get so excited and so infatuated with the idea of them, right? Because oftentimes when we're, fantasizing about our lives with them, it is in this beginning stage where they are so new to us and everything seems so hopeful and exciting. And there's this quote that says, a crush is just a lack of information, which I think can be true. A lot of times it is true. I think that sometimes we really get to know people and we realize, oh, I don't actually really like you. I really liked the idea of you, but you as a person, as I get to know you, I just sense that we're not compatible. I don't really like your sense of humor. I don't really like what your plan is for your life, whatever it may be. As time goes by and that crush kind of starts to dwindle down, and then we move on, and that's just what dating looks like, having like a bunch of crushes and then having those fizzle out and then replacing with new crushes. But sometimes you have this crush and you're so excited about them and you want them so bad, and then comes the rejection. Either they ghost or they hopefully don't ghost and they reach out and let you know. I think the best breakup text, or like we're ending things text, I ever received was, hey, I really enjoyed getting to know you. I think you're a great girl, but I don't see this progressing past what we have right now, which really made me feel, I got that text and like, yes, it was a massive fucking bummer, but ultimately it was like, I'm great. I'm affirmed that I'm great. There's nothing wrong with me. And what we have right now is fun. We're having a really good time. And, he enjoyed getting to know me. That said, it's not going to progress into a relationship. It's not going to progress into anything bigger than what it is. And so I don't really feel so bad. It's like, oh, did he not like getting to know me? Did he not like being around me? Did he not like spending the time with me that he spent with me? And it's not that. It's just like, this isn't going to keep going. And since I got that text, I used that text quite a few times. I think that was a great text. And, that text was probably written by one of his girlfriends, and shout out to her. Thank God, thank you for letting me down easy, girl. Love you. Wish you the best. Last time that I really liked someone and got rejected, it felt like heartbreaking at the time. I was so excited about this person, so infatuated with this guy, and I thought things were going super well, and then things ended and I felt like this devastation. I was like, oh my God, well, what did I do wrong? Like, how did this end? Why did it end the way that it ended? I wish like things could be different. I wish things could change. I wish that we could just give it another shot and all of that stuff. And then once I finally let go of that, not long after, I met Alex, which is one of my favorite stories. It's like I was so sad about the idea of this person, and then I fell in love with an actual person. I fell in love with who Alex is, not his potential, not what he could bring to the table, not who he could turn into, not what our life could look like, but actually I fell in love with him as our relationship progressed, and I got to know him. And it wasn't like I was getting to know him and that crush was fizzling. I was getting to know him and I was getting more and more eager to get to know him more. And I was thinking about what our life could look like, and then lo and behold, our life just started to look like that. The things that I was excited about started to happen. The things that I wanted to talk about, we started having conversations about. The things that I wanted to do, we started doing together. And so I had to just like realize, okay, that last thing that I wanted to work out so bad didn't work out, so that this relationship could. If I was existing in this scarcity mindset and I was like, okay, well, that's the end of that last relationship and I'm not going to find anything like that, and I'm not going to be happy, and I'm not going to feel the way that I felt, and this is the end and this is devastating, then I wouldn't have had my heart open and my mind open to something greater, something bigger, which ended up being Alex, who far exceeds my wildest expectations. Alex is just like the cherry on top of every single relationship that I've ever been in, just like the best, the pinnacle. And so I'm so thankful that all of the previous relationships that I was in didn't work out, so that I could meet him and have him and build this life with him. Sometimes when you're dating someone and you get this rejection text or this rejection call, or y'all are in person and things end in person, sometimes when things end, you have to take it with a grain of salt, right? Because it is not always about you. The person might be breaking up with you for what seems like this nitpicky reason. You were out with, my friends, and you said this one thing that I didn't like, and so now we're over. Obviously not like this offensive thing or this awful thing. Like if you said something like that and somebody breaks up with you, then, rightfully so. But if you said something like in passing or as a joke and they just didn't like it, they're using that and making it a bigger deal than it really was, then like that maybe isn't the actual reason they're breaking up with you. Some people simply aren't ready for you, and you might find out later, or you might never find out, right? Some people might come around years later and be like, hey, I realized like I just wasn't in the place, and you seemed like you had it all together, and you seemed like you were like progressing faster than I was, and I couldn't be in a relationship with someone like that at the time. You could find out that later, or you could literally never hear from them again. But I find more often than not, they always come back. Like more often than not, they really do always come back, and your feelings aren't wasted. If you're like, I felt so much for this person and then it ended, odds are they probably felt a lot for you too. And so years later, they may come back and be like, hey, wanted to talk about like why that ended, or I wanted to see how you're doing, or, are you still single, whatever. And maybe you are single and you want to give it another shot, or maybe you're not, or maybe you've just moved on. You are single and you just have no interest in dating them. There's various outcomes to that kind of situation, but some people are going to, find a reason to break up with you. And that's not the actual heart of the reason that they're breaking up with you. And just because somebody says it about you doesn't mean it's true. Somebody could break up with you for various reasons, but I don't want that to have any effect on your self-esteem or your self-confidence or your self-worth. Obviously, they're breaking up with you for something that you did that's actually wrong. It is important to work on those things and change those things and fix those things and evolve into a better person. But if they're breaking up with you simply because something about you that you actually do like, there's no need to change that thing to get them to stay or get them to stick around. Because if somebody wants to end things, if somebody wants to leave, it is important to just let them. And of course, there's friendship rejection when you're friends with this person. And there's obviously so many stories about people being in these friendships and their best friend of years and years just ghosts them or just ends the friendship, and it hurts so bad. I would say that friendship rejection oftentimes hurts more than a dating rejection because friendship is so intimate, and oftentimes friendship lasts longer than these people that we're dating casually. You might have like 5 substantial relationships in your life, but you will have 10 to 15 substantial friendships in your life, like long-term friendships in your life. Maybe, that number is big depending on who you are. Maybe you'll have like 5 substantial friendships or 10 substantial friendships, but these friendships often last years and years, and they shape you and mold you into the person that you are. You grow together and develop together, and you are just in love with being around them, and you have this closeness to being around them. And that is like deep, intimate friendship, which is a beautiful and wonderful thing. But when that ends, it feels so devastating because it's like, I lived so much of my life with you. But sometimes people just move in different directions and they evolve into different people. I've been thinking about this friendship that I had since college that recently ended, and I have gone through, I think, the many stages of grief for it. There's anger, and then there's disappointment, and there's sadness, and there's all of it, and then there's like acceptance. And I think that I've come to terms with the fact that maybe we love each other, and we care about each other, but we just don't really like each other anymore. We have become vastly different people, and being around each other doesn't give us the same sense of warmth and comfort and joy that it used to. And it is okay for that to end. It is okay for us to go in our different directions. I can look back at the memories that we had with such fondness and closeness and love and know that just because we had that in the past doesn't mean we would have continued to have that in the future. I have since found incredible people who love me for who I am right now, not people who love me for who I was in the past. And that has given me this sigh of relief, this moment of like, oh, I can just be myself, and I don't have to say the right thing or do the right thing. I don't have to try to fit in here, go to these places, or feel like I have to put on this front to feel accepted and loved, or feel like I have to shift the way that I see things or want to talk about things so that I could feel comfortable in this friendship. That I just found new friends. I found better friends, and that has been so healing for me. I say that, if you go out with people consistently, and every time you go out with them, you get awful anxiety and you feel this like fear of what if I said something, or what if I did something and they're just not telling me, or what if they're gossiping about me right now. If you feel that all the time, those people aren't your friends. If you feel anxiety every single time you go out and drink with the same people, and you feel anxious that you did something wrong all of the time, those people aren't your friends. The people that you drink with, I say, should be people that you feel comfortable with. And I know people have like casual going out friends, drinking buddies, whatever, but if I'm going to be drinking with people, already putting myself in a vulnerable state, already putting myself in a different, state of mind, I want to be with people that I love, that love me. That's just how I feel most comfortable. And some people, view that differently, but I don't want to feel like I'm so anxious the next morning because I did something, because I know that if I did something or if I said something, my friends would simply just tell me and we would work through it the same way that if my friends did something or said something that I didn't like, I would simply just tell them and we would work through it. There's really no anxiety to be had because I was just being myself with my friends, having a good time. But back to kind of the original point in friendship rejection, sometimes people are going to love you for who you were when you met them, but when you establish new boundaries and you change into the person that you want to be, that you're proud to be and excited to be, they're not going to like that. And you should not change. You should not stop becoming to make other people more comfortable. I don't care if it's your best friend for 20 years. Just because they don't like who you're becoming or growing into doesn't mean you should stop doing it, because ultimately you have to do what is best for yourself, because those people can always leave. And at the end of the day, you have yourself no matter what. And you deserve to live the life that you want to live, that brings you the most joy, the most peace, the most excitement, despite what anybody else says about it. Because the people that you are supposed to have in your life are going to show up. They're going to be there. And maybe the best friend you will ever have in your entire life is going to be the one you meet when you become that person you're supposed to be. And that is just a really encouraging thought that I remind myself of all the time. The people that I know now, the people that I call my best friends now, are people that love me and support me for who I am right now. And I would not have met them if I had not decided to make decisions that lead me to being the person that I want to be. I wouldn't have met them. And thank God I did. When it comes to friendship rejection or work rejection or romantic rejection, I think that the big thing that we need to make sure we have is a secure sense of self. Because if we allow rejection to shape us so that we can feel more liked or more wanted or more desirable by those people who have already said they don't want us, we are just allowing them to shape our lives. And that is not what we deserve. We deserve to shape our own lives. And having a secure sense of self really helps with that, saying, even if they don't like it, I'm going to be. Even if they don't choose it, I'm going to be. Even if they don't want it, I am going to be, because I like who I am. I like who I'm becoming. And their rejection doesn't change that about myself. Their rejection is more about them than it is about me. Their wants, their desires, who they want in their life, who they want in their company, whatever. Their rejection is about what they want, not about who I am. And that is okay. If what they want and who I am are not compatible and rejection comes, that is okay, because I'm not willing to sacrifice who I am to fit into the mold of what they want, all to find out that I am just wildly unhappy later. Sometimes rejection just gives us the opportunity to change our minds. And I say all the time that changing our minds and the ability to change our minds is a wonderful thing, because like I've told you guys, imagine if you got everything you wanted 5 years ago, every single thing that you wanted. Would you be happy now? Or would you wish you chose something different? Would you wish things worked out differently? If I was married to the person that I was dating 5 years ago, I'd be pretty unhappy. If I lived where I thought that I wanted to live 5 years ago, I'd be pretty unhappy. Things like that. But at the same time, hold on to the things that you know that you want. Hold on to the things that feel absolutely true to you. 5 years ago, I wanted nothing more than to do what I'm doing right now, to be a content creator full time and to have a podcast and to have an audience that I do that I feel so connected with and love showing up with all of the time. Like, I wanted what I have right now so bad. And that I didn't change my mind on. That I kept showing up for and working for. And just because it didn't work out in the past, just because I got no's in the past when I tried on Instagram, when I tried on a podcast previously, just because that didn't work out then doesn't mean it's not working out now. I think that's a great example that I started a podcast when I was in college called Ask Me in a Year, and I loved my podcast. It was my favorite thing that I did, and I think like 10 people listened to it, and that was more than enough for me. But it didn't work out because it just, like, the time that I was putting into it didn't really work out with like what I was receiving from it, and it felt like it just fizzled out, and so I let it fizzle out. But lo and behold, years later, here I am with a successful podcast that I love hosting that is working out wonderfully. I just cannot believe how that worked out, but I just kept showing up and trusting that the universe was going to reward me, and it did, because that abundance mindset has led me to more abundance than I could imagine. Abundance in relationships, abundance in health, abundance in just the way that I'm living my life. There's so much abundance surrounding me, and if I had only believed that rejection was the end, I wouldn't have the life and the opportunities that I have now. And I hope that either you're able to say that now or you're able to say that soon. And I want to leave you with this. Your yes for your life trumps somebody's no for your life. If you say yes and you keep doing the work and you keep showing up, no matter how many no's you get, there will be a yes. And when you receive those no's and not right nows with gratitude, you wouldn't believe the excitement and the joy that's going to come when that yes that's meant for you eventually does come. You deserve the things that you want. You deserve to live the life that you want. And I need to remind you that your wants are not wasted. Your desires are not wasted. You have them for a reason. When you see somebody else get the things that you want and you feel the pang of jealousy, remind yourself that if you can see them have it, that means you can have it too. And you can have it in a way that is meant for you, right? Because some people may be uber wealthy, but they have jobs that you would literally never want to do. Some people have these huge friend groups and they actually don't like each other. Some people are in these 5-year-long relationships and they're cheating. Like, you have to acknowledge that some people on paper have the things that you want and you feel jealousy towards that thing. You don't always know the full story of it all, but I do want to remind you that jealousy is normal. Jealousy is actually okay. Feeling jealousy, letting it come and letting it go is okay, but we don't let jealousy and envy compound and build up and harbor in us. We don't allow that to happen, okay? When jealousy comes, we say, I see that in them, so I can have it too, and it's coming to me when it's meant to come to me, and I'm so excited to receive it. Move on from it. Let that feeling go, okay? That's what's worked for me, and I think that it has really changed my life. Not villainizing myself for the jealousy that I may feel, but reframing that jealousy and reminding myself, okay, I see it, so I can have it, and I can't fucking wait to have it, and it's coming faster than I could even imagine, and it's coming in a way that is best for me. I hope this episode reminded you that rejection is not the end all be all, and I'm so excited to see what you guys do with the choices that sometimes are made for you, because rejection is a choice being made for you, but you can decide to do something else with it. You can decide to make it into something new, and I'm so excited to hear what you guys are going to do with it, and I hope that you remain hopeful and eager, because the things that are coming for you are coming soon, and I can't wait to hear what they are, and I can't wait to see what you guys do with them, okay? Thank you for joining me on this episode. If you liked this episode, which I hope you do, or any other episodes that you listen to, I would love if you gave it a 5-star rating. That means a lot to me and it means a lot to the podcast. I would really appreciate if you guys could take a couple of seconds to do that. Okay. And I will see you guys next Sunday. I love you so much and I'm on your side.